Hi, everyone. This is going to be a channeled message for the collective that I'm reading for. I'm not going to be using any tarot cards or divination tools. This is just going to be a pure psychic channeling session. I was feeling really called to channel something while I was sitting in bed today, just having a nice lazy morning. So maybe some of you are feeling really tired and you're feeling like you need extra rest. Or you're feeling like you're I'm getting your bones are weary. Um, yeah, definitely something with fatigue here feels relevant. So I'm going to connect into the astral and just kind of channel what I am seeing here. So in this astral here today, I'm seeing a boat. It's a large boat. It's kind of like a Viking ship. I'm seeing a lot of gold and silver and jewelry that's on this ship. And there's also a bunch of people on this ship. I see that you're captain of this ship and you are steering towards something. So it feels kind of like you have this precious treasure in tow and you're trying to seek safe harbor somewhere. Like you are aware of some responsibility that's hanging on your shoulders. You are aware of crew that you're responsible for. This could be other people like friends or family. This could be children or pets, something living that you feel responsible for. I'm seeing that there's some gifts on this vessel too. So it might be that you have hope for like a bright new future, or you're wanting to give someone something, like you're setting aside something for pleasure later is what's coming through. I'm also hearing tarantula. The term tarantula may be relevant for you. Maybe you have a pet tarantula. Maybe spiders just in general are significant for you. I'm saying this is like a brown furry tarantula. And the name Eduardo is coming through. I'm not sure if that name may be relevant for you. And sapphires. And the color green. The word sparkly. The word mezzanine. Afterthought. Blue. And beguile. I think beguile, that's an interesting one. I think of beguiling eyes. I don't think that's necessarily what is coming through here. Just the word beguile is coming through. But these words are just like extra confirmation. You may not necessarily resonate with those, but that's for some people in this collective. I'm seeing the ship now being turned towards a harbor. And I'm seeing there's some people waiting on the shore here. I'm seeing you getting off. You're wearing red robes, which could be symbolic of like, I'm getting the word literacy for some reason because it's kind of like, it's a red robe with that white and black sort of fur along the top of it. And you're sort of stepping off. It's very kingly. The whole vibe of this is super kingly, like royal. And of course, this does not have to be for a divine masculine that I'm reading for. It could be a divine feminine who's embodying some more of her masculine energy right now. Or we could just be kind of talking about that more masculine, pursuing, protective energy in general. And I see you distributing, well, rather you're like directing some people to distribute gifts to those that are like waiting on shore. Like I see, it's kind of like if you've ever seen, I'm getting a lot of chills. I'm getting tons of chills on this actually. If you've ever seen people carrying water buckets when they're putting out a fire, and so they just form a line of like 20, 40 people, and they just are just passing these buckets back and forth, like, you know, carrying down the filled water bucket, and then the person at the very end throws it at the fire, and then they hand it back, and then, you know, the cycle kind of continues. That's kind of like what I'm seeing, but for the gifts. And so there's like this line of people extending from the ship that are giving these gifts to the people waiting on shore. And the people waiting on shore are like very raggedy, like they have been waiting a while. So I'm hearing the phrase ships coming in. I'm getting more chills. I've actually kind of had like continuous chills, which means there's this really strong, that's what's happening. There's like an energy exchange happening with you and with someone else or some other people, some group of something, or like an idea, a creative project, something in your life. there's this feeling of you went out, you got experience, you got gifts, you got tools, you got supplies, you brought that all back. And like, you were kind of in this holding period for a while you're sailing on these rough and bumpy seas. Again, I'm getting more full body chills on that. And it's like you weathered these storms, you protected these gifts, you kept peace among the crew that didn't always agree. And like, I'm also getting incongruence. Like you were holding on to all these different pieces that didn't seem like they meshed together. Like it didn't seem like how, it's like, how are these pieces fitting together? How are these gifts fitting together? But I'm kind of hearing some laughing from your guides. It's like, the pieces you were collecting were never supposed to fit with each other. They were supposed to fit with other pieces other people were holding. So you may find it relevant of like, you were given these different puzzle pieces and you were frustrated because you're like, this doesn't make sense. It's like, I've got like a pizza cutter and I've got a can opener, but then I've got like, I don't know, like a bag of oatmeal and I've got a jar of this. And so it's almost like you have this stuff that doesn't seem to go together, but it's because it's like collaboration was sort of the intent of this. So like you were given some pieces, but not all of it, because you're not meant to do all of it yourself. You are meant to aid and to help in some sort of community effort for something. Because actually you're going to find a lot more joy in working with other people. In the congruentness is what's coming through. Yeah. So there was never anything wrong with what you were holding. You were not picking up the wrong pieces. It's like, just because your stuff seemed all over the place or wasn't making sense, didn't fit together, didn't belong, sort of, and at times I'm seeing even caused conflict. Like I'm seeing scissors and pliers like snapping at each other, like this weird sort of like animus being given to objects that don't necessarily have life or sentience in the way we would think of it. But it's almost like you would assign certain qualities to tools you were picking up and you were seeing them as maybe aggressive or in conflict with others, when maybe perhaps some of your own energy was turning those things towards each other because you're frustrated they didn't fit. So I hope that message makes sense to who it's for. I'm going to return now to kind of the visuals of what I'm seeing on the shore. So all these people are kind of getting these gifts. I'm seeing like they have these puzzle pieces, like they're wearing these necklaces with the puzzle pieces around their neck. And it's sort of like a little bit of this like video game vibe of like they take the gift and then it like magically sort of fits like with their puzzle piece. And it's sort of this yin yang, like a bunch of these people are wearing yin yang symbols. Oh, oh, this is really funny. I feel really giddy. It's this vibe of yin and yang. It's like the two pieces coming together. And this could be kind of like a divine union message. This can be a union with you and yourself, you and a loved one, you and a romantic partner. There's just this real energy of unionship that's happening, which is very interesting because we're in this Venus retrograde. But I almost feel like it's this period of time right now that's meant to reunite you with these lost or stolen or forgotten or misplaced or misaligned aspects of yourself. It's like it's all kind of coming together. It was always supposed to be this way. It just didn't make sense until the picture came together. And I'm hearing a guide coming in right now for some of you. This might be coming forward as like the Archangel Raphael. He's kind of laughing and he's saying, the picture doesn't make sense at first to the people who are looking at it if they don't have eyes to see that picture. If someone hasn't seen the color blue before, try describing the color blue. You can't. You can only describe it as the presence or absence of other colors, of other experiences they've already had before. Ooh, I'm getting big chills on this. He says, dear one, as the picture comes together, you will find increasing clarity in your life. You will not be so frustrated when you realize your struggle was not for nothing. In fact, your struggle was so important because you cannot navigate the storms of life without struggle. You cannot appreciate the highs without also appreciating the lows. You have to lean in and be a battle warrior in the moment. The monk at the top of the village, off in the temple, hidden from the others, is not needed in the time of war. In the time of war, we need the man who takes action. We need the women who are weaving clothing, who are fighting on the front lines, who are taking care of soldiers. We need, men who are strategists. We need humans. We need people who are performing these different functions in order to bring harmony and unity. It's all well and good for the monk to sit atop the mountain and say, I have peace. Whatever will come to me will come to me. But in the moment, you are also required as humans on earth to participate in your own life. You are required to pour energy into the things which must pour energy back into you. It is like the pouring of two cups into each other. It is like the two of cups in tarot. That cannot exist unless there is movement. If both people are completely at peace with each other, they're never sharing their cups. One person must be pouring into the other, and the other in turn pouring back. There must be this equivalent exchange in this movement. Those who are too stagnant in their love life, those not willing to fight for or pursue what they are passionate about, may find it slipping out of their grasp because they take too passive an approach and they assume that all lovers and all things will come to them, but that is not always the case. Yes, what is yours will always find you, but what is yours may not always stay with you if you are not willing to change and to make the improvements and to pour into one another. Do not make the mistake of thinking you are being too passive, you're being too aggressive. Simply sit with your actions and your feelings in the moment and do what feels right. Do not be in a state of too much conflict, but do not be in a state of too much pursuing, too much receding. Simply balance, give back and forth, have this yin yang energy both within yourself and within others, and you'll find great peace in this pursuit. So Raphael's stepping back a bit now, and I'm seeing the shore, and I'm seeing these people kind of transforming. They're transforming into different monsters, different energies, different animals and people. And this is really very fascinating and interesting. It's like they're taking these different forms. I see some people flying, like with wings, like eagle wings. It kind of transform more into this eagle type of creature. And I see some people are running like gazelles. Some people becoming crocodiles. Okay, download. So what's happening here is people's spiritual gifts are coming in, and it's causing us, big chills. I love this. It's causing us to start looking very different from each other. I'm hearing it's time for some of us to find our pack. This is exciting. I'm filled with a lot of joy and like anticipation, like rah, like that sort of energy. So I'm seeing that some people are meant to run in packs. Some people are meant to be solitary. Some people are, meant to hunt alone. Some people are with groups. Some people are leading a pride. Some people are with like a clutch. And I'm hearing like ravens, reptiles. So there's really beautiful blooming distinction of energies happening right now. I'm seeing crocodiles that are swimming together, and that's one form of unionship. It's like maybe not as romantic as what some people think, but it's very heavy and sultry in a different way. It's very intense, almost like Scorpio energy. Then I'm seeing some eagles, and I'm seeing specifically, I'm seeing a nest high up. It's reminding me of, if you have ever seen the live video cam feeds of the bald eagles that are roosting right now. I think they have a chick between them, and some teachers are like zooming in, and there's like sessions, like live sessions, and the teachers will turn it on, and then the kids in the classroom and the teacher will be like watching this eagle couple have their kids and have them hatch. I think they recently had a couple hatch, and it's really exciting. But anyway, so that's like one type of family or one type of union too, right? It's like this intense, closely bonded pair raising chicks, raising kids together, or this could also be like a project. I'm seeing cheetahs running too. Cheetahs are a bit more solitary, I think, when we think of them, like very reclusive. Like we don't often think of like a giant like group of cheetahs. We often think of one lone cheetah kind of sprinting across. But there's also different stages of the cheetah's life where like the mother is raising the kids and they're very close with her, for instance, or maybe it's like breeding season. Okay. I'm also seeing the lion and like the lion pride, lion cubs, the lionesses out and hunting. I'm seeing the male leader. I'm seeing the juveniles sort of fighting for dominance. I'm seeing like a male go off and leave this other group because like he couldn't cut it. But he can head his own group, right? And his different skills can be useful there. So I'm seeing a lot of diversity. a lot of cat imagery and a lot of like claw, talon, fang sort of symbolism. So to me, that tells me you might be protective, or you might be coming into like an aggressive or defensive period of your life where it's important you arm yourself with knowledge and with tools and your natural skills. And that's a good thing. Yeah. And it's like the captain of the ship, who I've been kind of associating with the collective here, is like kind of saying like, it's a zoo out here. And sort of wondering where they fit in, because they brought back all this stuff. All these other people have benefited from the gifts that were brought back, right? But like the captain is kind of standing there like, who am I? Like, I see all these beautiful animals and everyone's sort of running off in their groups or running off alone or building communities, but like, what do I do? And I see like this thatch hut on this beach. The sand is like yellow and it's very like palm trees and jungle kind of in the background. And this leader comes out and they seem very in like, I think, a native person of this land, like maybe more indigenous. That may be relevant for some of you listening. And like they're very, their skin is very like tanned, like they've been in the sun a lot, like they were probably naturally tan already. But like, yeah, definitely kind of weathered by the sun. And it's to me, it's coming across a very classically Native American. This, of course, could be someone, maybe this is different depending on what resonates for the individual members of the collective. This is a larger message. But yeah, he's like a chieftain and he's got these like white with red and black feathers that are kind of coming like a headdress. Like he's wearing like a headdress kind of thing. And he's also getting a lot of interesting bodily sensations sort of in my chest and like tingling and stuff in my arms. He's kind of like dancing a bit and he's shaking, like he's got these anklets, sort of like feather and bell sort of anklets that are jangling around his feet. And it's kind of like this vibe of like moving with the wind, moving with the trees, moving with the sand, moving with the ocean. I hear like anointing. So it's like he's passing on some wisdom for you. And I see him placing like this crown on your head. And it's kind of like this graduation, this commencement. Commencement is what's coming through most strongly. This commencement ceremony. And it's pulling you through something. I hear pulling you through the window of your transformation. Wow. And I'm feeling a lot of powerful emotions at this. There's this bittersweetness. There's this feeling of like leaving behind something, threading the needle, like an eye looking through this threading of the needle. And it was just like, you wanted so much for these other things, these other aspects to come along. But I'm seeing, for those of you who work with yarn, I'm seeing like yarn and it's being pulled through this needle, but only one strand of it. I'm hearing like only one soul goes with you, kind of like, it's just you that goes through this. Like all the people, the experiences, everything else is like being pruned away. And it was almost like the dye of that experience, the like dye job. Like think if it was color or something, because I'm seeing a sort of beige taupe color, but like imagine if the dyeing, the coloring of those experiences was going to come through to you, but it's like it's all being stripped away because it's preserving your integrity, and you're still this like very natural wool color being pulled through. And there's a lot of grief in this process. You may kind of feel energetically like something is being stripped sort of from you, like you're losing stuff, but you're really not. Nothing that's for you is ever really being stripped away, like for no purpose. Things happen for a reason, right? But it's almost like I'm seeing this 100-gram spool of yarn. Excuse me, hold on. I've got a lot of, solar plexus clearing and throat chakra clearing coming up right now for you. There was like this 100-gram ball of yarn, like a small skein, sort of a yarn, sitting on a shelf. And it's this sort of taupe color. And it was very cheap. It was like $4 or $5. But this was like Peruvian or Andaluvian, something like that. I think I'm hearing like South American, right? This is like a really nice quality yarn and it's soft and stuff, but like it was wrapped up in all these other yarn pieces, the other strands of wool that weren't pure. Like they weren't a match for it. There was like friction. Like this yarn was too smooth for them. Almost. It's like these other ones were rougher or coarser, but you were not meant to be around the roughness and the coarseness like of those other pieces of yarn. But you got twisted up into these strands of this other yarn, and then you got sold. Is like what I'm hearing. It's almost like you got packaged up and sold as something you weren't, something you didn't belong to, and it didn't belong to you. You didn't belong to it, but like you thought you could add softness. You thought you could add something to that skein, and so you stayed in it. But right now the universe is like pulling you out of that skein, and it's like, no, like you belong over with the silk. Like you are actually completely misplaced. You're going into this nice like silk blend, or like there's going to be fine cashmere and merino wool and nice things. Like you're going into that skein of yarn. That's going to be this beautiful, I hear dystopian blend of different, chaotic, beautiful pieces that will be soft and luxurious, and no piece will be the same, but you will be at home there because you're adding something that wasn't there. Whereas before you blended in, but in this way that was like, it wasn't you. You like from a distance and all twisted up in there, it seemed like it was you and you were them, but you weren't. I hope that makes sense. I'm seeing this imagery really clearly. And so, anyway, this chieftain like just kind of like he reaches sort of into your soul, like by your heart chest, and like pulls. And so that's the imagery of like, oh, I feel like this big tug, this big like pulling, like the soul, the fabric of your soul is like pulling it out of where it didn't belong, is what I'm hearing. Like you thought you could help, you couldn't help, so let it go. Like it's gone, it's done now. So he pulls it out, and so he's got this big long strand, and I see him doing a lot of these very magical motions with his hands, sort of like dancing. And the word that comes to mind is like yipping. I hope that's not offensive. That's just kind of like what it sounds like. It's this very beautiful, intense, and interesting sort of high pitched chant. And there's like fire and smoke in the background, and like he whips it up, and now it becomes this beautiful long skein. If you've ever seen like a hand-dyed natural skein of yarn that's like very fancy, very luxurious, very soft. I'm sorry. So the recording actually got cut off for me when I'm going to go back and stitch these two together. But something really interesting happened right when I was reaching the crescendo of the previous recording, where the shaman is pulling that thread out of you, that like soul thread, out of your chest. I thought I had a little more battery on my iPad, but it hit 2%, and then it popped up with a notification saying that it couldn't do any more recording. And so it ended the recording. It did save it. And so I sat there still in this kind of, light trance, this meditation, wanting to continue, but I couldn't. So that may be a message for someone that like right when you felt at like the precipice of this strong transformation, something happened and it like cut you off. It got interrupted. That felt very significant. And so I thought to myself, okay, maybe I'll get some food. I'll rest a little bit, just charge my iPad some, and I'll come back. But then I thought, no, I'm not just going to let the recording ending stop me. I'm going to try it on my phone. So I went to my phone. I did not have the same voice recorder app on my phone. So I thought, you know what? I'm a problem solver. No problem. I'm going to go download it from the store. I go to the app store to download it. But because I am using an iPad to record this on with a separate Bluetooth microphone, and my phone is an Android, there's a compatibility issue with the app, and the app is not available for my phone. So I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, well, I guess I can't record this anymore. Darn it. So I do go get some food, get something to drink. I hang out for a bit and just sort of, relax and assume, I'll just let it charge a bit and then I'll come back. I think it's been about half an hour for me. Then it's something really interesting happened. So I let it charge up. I plug in, there's a little conversion device I have to plug into my iPad to connect, to make the Bluetooth properly connect or something. I don't know how to call it, but anyway, there's a device I plug in. So I plug that device in, and then I suddenly remembered as I plugged that in and turned my little mic on, hey, isn't there something on the bottom of like the bottom back part of this converter device where I could plug in the charger? And so I looked, and sure enough, there actually is a little slot where I could have plugged in my charger to my iPad. I just didn't realize it because I've never um, used that aspect of the um, the mic setup before. Um, and so then I just started laughing because it was so funny how, I got interrupted, and then I thought, oh, I should make a productive use of my time. I'll nourish my body and rest. Then I thought, no, I'm not going to let this stop me. And then I was stopped again. And then I did go rest anyway. And then I came back and then remembered, which I think either my higher self or my guides probably reminded me, hey, I could plug this in. So I feel this is speaking to a larger theme in this collective's life in the audience here, which is that you may have been stopped or stalled at something, and then you were really torn between wanting to dive in or wanting to step back from it. And then you maybe try to dive back in and you couldn't, you were met with a roadblock. So you did just kind of nourish your body and rest. And then when you came back, you realized, wait, I could have done this the whole time. But don't think of it that way. I think the message here in this is that like things are going to happen when they happen. Divine timing is always at play. You're deliberately not going to remember. You're going to be blocked from remembering key things you could have used or done to speed up, to expedite a process, to skip things. The universe is not, in other words, going to allow you to skip some of the roadblocks it puts up, because the roadblocks are happening for a purpose. I hadn't actually eaten breakfast yet, so probably because this channeling was a bit more intense than I thought it would be, that's probably why my guides are like, we got to stop this real quick. Don't let her remember she can charge while she's recording. So anyway, now I am charging while I'm recording, but yeah, so I'm going to go back to the shaman, and hopefully this is done shortly because I don't want to make this video too long. So seeing the shaman, let's see the cord, that like strand. Okay, here we go. Whew. Okay, bye chills. All right, we're back in it. So he's pulling the strand out of you. And it's funny because like if you've ever pulled a strand out of a larger string and seen how like the rest of it kind of shrivels up a bit, like it kind of like, excuse me, having some confirmation burps here, from the heart chakra sort of area. It's like your body's like contracting. The body is contracting here a bit as he's pulling the string out, because it's almost like it's not wanting to let go. Like it's almost like I hear like the fascia is stuck. Like it's like really clinging to this string. And so he pulls it. Sorry, a car alarm just went off. It distracted me for a moment. And also I was hearing the word unicorn earlier. I meant to tell you, and I'm hearing a bit now for like the kind of animal you are, unicorn, right? So it's like you might have a very unique kind of blueprint too. And so the cord is not like completely dislodged from you here, but I'm seeing that you suddenly undergo a transformation. Like you suddenly like loosen up, I'm hearing. Your body like relaxes and like, how to describe this? In the same way that the yarn, when like, if you're pulling one thread of yarn or a strand from a larger bunch of strands out and the rest kind of like crumpling and it's almost like they're going to knot up or something. It's like suddenly the tension gives and like he's able to like pull it out smoothly. And he's looking at it and I'm seeing you there and you're standing much more like whole. And so, and again, forgive me if I was overlapping a bit from the earlier part of the session, because like I said, it's been half an hour, so maybe the scene has changed a little bit here. Yeah, I'm seeing him like fashion it into this skein, into a yarn. It's like a much nicer yarn, a more like hand dyed and luxurious sort of thing. And a skein is just like, it's another term for how you wrap the yarn up. Yeah, and I'm seeing him like press this back to you, and then it like kind of sinks into your chest, and It's a very like, has a heaviness to this, but there's also like a pride. Yeah. Like you've become this beautiful hand-dyed skein of yarn or hank of yarn. And I'm like actually rubbing my heart chakra area right now because it feels kind of like it needs nourishment, it needs love. And that's like kind of where he put it back into, right? Um, I also hear like Honolulu or luau. That may be significant for some of you. Maybe Maui. Okay, it's very like tribal, very Hawaiian sort of feel. And I hear a breeze going through some leaves right now, and there's a lot of chills in my body, a lot of rustlings. There's a lot of like spiritual movement, energetic movement and activity. And then this scene sort of like fades away. So I think that some work that's just recently been done here in this session is purifying you, making you feel more integrated and more whole, and removing the things that didn't serve you. Um, Obviously, it's a larger, collective. So take the message how it resonates. It's going to be different for each person, but that should be the underlying theme of it. Oh, okay, so now this is done. I think I'm going to take another break, maybe. And thank you all so much for listening. And do take some time to rest today. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. And this is a Sunday here, so have a restful weekend or whatever day it is when you happen to see this. Ciao.